What if I told you that the crushing weight you call depression isn't actually a malfunction of your mind, but a calculated, desperate, and evolutionary brilliance of your immune system trying to save your life? Let that sink in for a moment. For decades, you have been told a story that your brain is broken. You have been sold the narrative of the chemical imbalance, that you are simply running low on happy fuel like serotonin, and that if you just top up the tank with a pill, the engine will run smoothly again. But if that were the whole truth, why do antidepressants fail for so many people? Why are we seeing an epidemic of despair in the most comfortable era of human history? The answer lies in a field that connects your thoughts, your nerves, and your defense system, Psycho-Neuro-Immunology. To understand what depression really is, we need to strip away the poetic sadness and look at the raw biology. We need to stop looking at the brain as an isolated organ floating in a jar and start looking at it as a part of a unified ecosystem. In this ecosystem, your immune system is the army. Its job is to protect you from invaders. And here is the headline of that conversation: your body thinks you are sick, so it has decided to shut you down to survive. Let's ignore the psychiatry textbooks for a minute and look at your daily life. Imagine you have a terrible flu. I mean, a really bad one. You have a high fever, your body aches, and you are exhausted. If your best friend called you right now and said, "Hey, let's go to a party, dance all night, and meet new people," what would you say? You would say no. You would want to curl up in a dark room, sleep, not eat much, and avoid human interaction. You would lose your sex drive. You would lose your ambition. You would just want the world to stop. Now, look at the symptoms of major depression: social withdrawal, fatigue, loss of appetite or comfort eating, lack of motivation, anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure, and a desire to stay in bed. Do you see the similarity? It is identical. This is not a coincidence. This is what we in the scientific community call sickness behavior. In the wild, if you were a caveman and you got infected by a bacteria or a virus, your immune system had to mount a massive defense. This defense is expensive. It requires huge amounts of energy, calories, to produce fevers and white blood cells. If you went out hunting, gathering, or mating while you were infected, you would waste the energy your immune system needs to kill the virus. You would die. So, your immune system developed a remote control to hijack your brain. It releases specific messenger proteins called cytokines. Think of cytokines as the urgent text messages your white blood cells send to each other. When you have an infection, or, and this is the crucial part, when you have chronic stress, these cytokines flood your blood. Eventually, these inflammatory messengers reach the barriers of your brain. They scream, "We are under attack. We need energy. Shut down the factory." When your brain receives this signal, it alters your neurochemistry. It's not that you just ran out of serotonin randomly. It's that your body is actively stealing the raw materials usually used to make serotonin and dopamine and repurposing them to fuel the immune war. Let's dive deeper into this mechanism, because this is where the chemical imbalance theory falls short and the immune imbalance theory takes over. Inside your brain, you have a specific amino acid called tryptophan. Under normal, happy conditions, your brain takes tryptophan and turns it into serotonin, the neurotransmitter that makes you feel calm, confident, and content. It's a beautiful, smooth production line. However, when you are inflamed, when those cytokines are banging on the doors of your brain, your body activates a specific enzyme called iodine 2,3-dioxygenase. You can think of this enzyme as a railway switch. When it gets activated by inflammation, it flips the switch. It diverts the tryptophan away from the serotonin factory. Instead of making serotonin, it turns tryptophan into a chemical called kynurenine. This is the ultimate betrayal. Not only is your brain now starving for serotonin because the raw material was stolen, but kynurenine can be broken down into neurotoxic byproducts like quinolinic acid. These toxins cause anxiety, agitation, and actually damage brain cells. So you aren't just sad, you are being chemically poisoned by your own defense system because it thinks you are fighting a plague. But wait, you might say, I don't have the plague. I don't have a virus. So why is my body doing this? This is the tragedy of the modern human. Your immune system is millions of years old. It evolved in an environment where the main threats were physical, a predator, a wound, or an infection. It learned that stress usually meant physical damage. If a lion is chasing you, you might get bitten. If you get bitten, you might get infected. So, the moment you feel stress, your immune system preemptively prepares for infection by launching inflammation. In the 21st century, the lions are gone. Instead, we have 30-year mortgages, toxic bosses, social media comparison, processed food, and sleep deprivation. These are our stressors. But your ancient immune system cannot tell the difference between a tiger and a deadline. To your body, chronic psychological stress is physical damage. So, when you are stressed day after day, your body stays in a state of low-grade, chronic inflammation. It keeps pumping out those cytokines. It keeps activating that IDO switch. It keeps stealing your tryptophan. It keeps you locked in sickness behavior, which we diagnose as depression, because it thinks you are constantly on the verge of dying from an infection. This brings us to the actual architecture of your brain. We need to talk about the microglia. If neurons are the rock stars of the brain, microglia are the roadies and the security guards. In a healthy brain, microglia are gentle gardeners. They prune dead connections, clean up waste, and help neurons communicate. They secrete factors that help your brain grow and learn neuroplasticity. But when those inflammatory alarm bells ring, the microglia undergo a terrifying transformation. They stop being gardeners and turn into soldiers. They become activated. An activated microglia cell pulls back its nurturing arms and starts releasing inflammatory toxins. It stops producing the fertilizer for your brain, called BDNF, and starts spraying defoliant. These soldier cells literally start to eat the connections between your neurons, specifically in the hippocampus, the area responsible for memory and emotion. This is why depression comes with brain fog. This is why you can't concentrate. This is why you can't remember where you put your keys. It is not a psychological weakness. It is a biological scorched-earth policy. Your immune system is tearing up the roads to stop the enemy, but there is no enemy, just your life. This perspective is supported by seminal research. 2008, Dancer and friends, in their paper From Inflammation to Sickness and Depression, when the immune system subjugates the brain, fundamentally shifted the scientific consensus. They demonstrated that the symptoms of depression are not a malfunction, but a reorganized priority list of the organism to deal with infection. Similarly, work by Miller and Raison has highlighted how this evolutionary mismatch turns our survival mechanisms into chronic illness. Furthermore, we must address the cortisol paradox. You know cortisol as the stress hormone. You've been told it's bad, but actually, cortisol is your body's natural anti-inflammatory. When you are stressed, cortisol spikes to cool down the inflammation. It's the firefighter. However, if you are stressed all the time, your immune cells stop listening to cortisol. It's like the boy who cried wolf. The immune system becomes glucocorticoid resistant. So you have high stress hormones and high inflammation simultaneously. The firefighter is spraying water, but the fire is ignoring it. This unchecked inflammation is what drives the depressive cycle. And let's not forget the gut. The gut-brain axis is the physical highway for this inflammation. If you eat a standard diet high in sugar and processed seed oils, you cause inflammation in your intestines. This leaky gut allows bacteria to enter your bloodstream. Your immune system sees this, freaks out, and launches the cytokine attack that ends up in your brain. You are literally eating your way into a depressive episode. So, what does this mean for you? It means that depression is not a sign that you are weak. It is not a sign that you are crazy. It is a sign that your body is fighting a war. It is a biological state of emergency. When you view depression this way, the solution shifts. It is not just about thinking positive thoughts. You cannot think your way out of inflammation. You have to treat the body to heal the mind. This is why things like exercise are so potent, not just for clearing your head, but because working muscles release myokines that physically neutralize the inflammatory cytokines. This is why sleep is non-negotiable. It is when the microglia switch back from soldiers to gardeners and clean up the toxins. This is why nutrition matters. You need to stop feeding the fire in your gut. This is why stress reduction, meditation, deep breathing, nature, is medical, not recreational. When you stimulate your vagus nerve, you are sending a direct ceasefire order to your immune army. You are not broken. You are a biological machine operating exactly as you were designed to survive a harsh environment. Your body loves you so much that it is trying to shut you down to save you. The problem is just a misunderstanding between the ancient programming of your immune system and the modern reality of your life. Depression is a call to action. It is a demand for rest. It is a signal that your environment has become toxic to your biology. Listen to the signal, not with shame, but with the understanding of a mechanic listening to an engine. The smoke isn't the problem. It's the sign that the engine is overheating. Cool down the engine, lower the inflammation,